Bueno, buenos días a todos, gracias por acompañarnos. El tiempo es un fenómeno. Si el tiempo no pasara y no pusiera distancia entre los sucesos que nos marcan, la vida francamente fuera invivible, fuera intolerable. Por eso el reto para nosotros como humanos, personas, miembros de la raza humana, el reto es por aquellos que ya no están y por el bien de los que quedan, es recordar, hacer el esfuerzo de recordar, como se dice, prohibido olvidar. Y han pasado casi 5 meses desde los sucesos del 7 de octubre, ese día trágico donde 1.200 inocentes perdieron la vida de la forma más barbárica posible. Yo siento que la civilización como tal retrocedió, o sea, para todos, no solo para personas de un país o para un grupo. Los sucesos fueron verdaderamente nefastos. Creo que todos vimos en las noticias mujeres violadas, niños decapitados, familias enteras quemadas. Es algo que es muy difícil de conciliar, y si bien el tiempo va suavizando y ya uno lo siente con la crudeza, es muy importante escuchar estos testimonios, como dije, para hacerle honor a los que ya no están y por el bien de los que quedan, porque si uno no recuerda las cosas, estamos probablemente destinados a repetirlas. Entonces, quiero darle la bienvenida a Michal. Michal tuvo un pequeño cambio de planes. Michal es oficial del ejército. Ella tiene la desafortunada responsabilidad de informar a los familiares de los soldados caídos, la suerte de sus seres queridos. Y Yarin es sobreviviente del Festival Nova. Thank you very much for being today here with us and sharing your stories. It's not easy for you. I think many people would rather, put it in the past, not remember it, but you, Yarin, you choose to every day tell your story once and twice and all the times necessary to keep it, to share your testimony. So before listening to that, tell us a little bit. Israel is not a stranger to terror attacks, and that's part of the daily life. So how was life prior to October 7? What was life for Israel up till October 6th?
Before October 7th, it was, for us, we had a great divisions in Israel regarding the judicial reform about what is going to be in the law and the government. So we were really evolving around that, and our lives were daily lives. We were just handling our own. Reserves were reserves. We do each year reserves. In my age, we think about which university to go to, and we start building up our money to start our lives and everything, and it was pretty normal.
It's pretty normal, but you have had terror attacks, and not like October 7. So how I think that October 7 marks like a before and after for Israelis.
We have handled terrorist attacks with our whole lives. We know that there's an average about 2 a month somewhere inside Israel. In the West Bank, we'll keep that out of it. And me personally, I walk around with my personal handgun, my personal pistol, not only for my personal defense, but in order to react as fast as possible if I'm going to be in a situation where I need to react. And today, I walk around with a pistol and 2 more magazines, just because I don't know how big the attack is going to be. And that has become our new life, that we have to expect the unexpected.
What about you, Michal? What was life for you before? You work, as I said in Spanish, giving the unfortunate news to families of fallen soldiers. Before October 7, how often did you have that sad task?
So it was my day job for almost 17 years as a casualty officer. So I know the role, I'm used to it, but I think that what changed in October when the attack is the amount of civilians who die in this day. and then you realize that the IDF should have protected them. And it's something that in the first few hours we realized that the army is not there and the army is unable to help. And I think that the footage that we had on TV, that the Nukhba terrorists put on, like the photo, everything, we saw it together with the whole country. Like the IDF got to know of those footage together with the civilian people. And I think this is something that really broke the trust between the civilian and the army. And it was quite hard, and I think it will take us a long time to bring back the trust.
You mentioned yesterday a story that really touched my heart. The mother that went to the base, that she found out about her son through her cell phone. If you want to share that story with us.
One of the horrible technique that the Nukhba terrorists used, they took the soldier's phone, they opened it usually with the Face ID, or they took his finger, and they recorded how they are killing him. And then they went inside the WhatsApp group and looked for mom, where it says mom, and they sent it to her. So imagine you are a mom of a soldier in Israel, Shabbat morning, you're seeing a text from your son, you open it, and this is what you're seeing. You're seeing your son being dragged out of his dorm or out of his armored vehicle, being killed. Horrible. They did horrible thing. I wouldn't mention them because it's tough to imagine it, but they abused the bodies in a way that we didn't thought that we will see such footage ever in our life. And she got this footage, and she lived near Jerusalem, and there's a base over there. Her son doesn't serve there. It was the first base next to where she lived, and she was running into the base. And in every military base there is a front gate, and she was standing in front of it and shouting so hard that I think that I'm still hearing her voice. Help me, this is what I got in my phone. Help me, this is what somebody is doing to my son. And as we're trying to help her, but we have nothing to do because we don't know where the footage is from. We don't know if it's real. And it was like so soon in Saturday morning that in the first few hours, we realized how horrible everything was. And we were just standing with her like for I think 4 or 5 hours, trying to help with something. And after maybe it was almost 5 hours, she just went home. She understood that we had nothing to do. And it took us 4 days to reach her house and to go and give her a official notification that her son was killed. And what is the horrible sentence was that when we reached her house, she said to us, I don't need you now. Don't approach me. I needed you then and you couldn't help me. So now I can do everything by my own, leave my house. So just like a small way to prove how the military wasn't able to assist in the first few days and really trying to understand what's happening and how to behave and who is in the kibbutz and who is in the festival and who live in Sderot. So it took us a while.
What were you doing the morning of October 7? When did you notice that something was really wrong? If you want to tell us your story, Yarin.
I didn't know anything was wrong until I went to my base on that evening because
You were in Nova Festival.
I was in a Nova Festival, and at 6:30 when the siren starts to go off, it's not such a big deal. So we just kept hanging out by the car. We continued to drink and dance and to talk to people. And we thought it was a terrorist attack, that it's going to be over soon. But I didn't know that it was this big of an occasion until I got drafted and they told us about what happened. I didn't have any intimate reception when I was fleeing the festival, so I couldn't really understand how big the situation was.
If you want to tell us, you were in Nova Festival, and how did you try to get out? What was the scene on the place? What was your experience being there?
So at 6:30, we were hanging out by the car in the parking lot, and we saw the missiles getting launched out of Gaza because we were so close, and we saw the interceptions by the Iron Dome hitting them back. And after a couple minutes, two girls approached us, and they asked us if we could help them, and we said yes, of course. And I sent them to a friend of mine who lives near Kibbutz Be'eri. And now we know that when they were on their way to the kibbutz, they stopped alongside a road bomb shelter. And because I sent them there, 3 were killed, and only 2 of them survived. And only at 7:15, that is when we actually took the decision to cross the 232 road going east. But then we got surrounded, and because it was shooting from everywhere, and people were also driving from east to west, which is against us, and the road could not have 2 vehicles going one against each other. We had to flee the car, and we had to start running, and the scenes there were terrible.
But you mentioned that you saw the missiles and the interception. When did you knew that there were terrorists running around shooting and killing the party goers in
I didn't know. I didn't know because the first time that I saw terrorists was when there was a police barricade on the 232 road leading north to Kibbutz Be'eri, and that was when I saw the first wave of terrorists shooting at the policemen, and I thought, okay, like a little bit of a terrorist attack, it's fine. So let's continue driving east. And then we started driving east. And then after we got surrounded and you see Hamas terrorists with their SUVs shooting at you, and they're from everywhere. They surrounded us from north, from east, from everywhere. So we didn't really know what was going on, and we didn't even know where to run to. And again, there was no understanding at this point that we were being attacked at this great of a deal. Like, you have to understand, you have to be with me in the moment too. Nobody thought that they're going to be breaching the Gaza barricade, the Gaza border, and going inside and doing what they're doing. We didn't even know what was going on in the kibbutzim or anything. We just heard gunshots going everywhere, and we only saw the missiles, and there was no clear understanding of what was going on.
In the event yesterday, you mentioned that you met a car coming on the other side, and he told you that we're getting massacred. When you heard that, what went through your head?
At first, I thought it was somebody from the party that maybe saw something. Maybe I don't know, he was not in good shape. Maybe he was really scared. And that is why I stood there for a good minute, just trying to understand what he was saying. But afterwards, as we started walking east, we saw the other party. There was a small party near Kibbutz Re'im, where there was a mass casualty event, and it was really bad.
In those harrowing moments, how did you find the strength or to act and react and not freeze?
I think that a lot of the decisions I made on October 7th were because of my army service. We were taught to not think in some kind of a way. We're taught to act always. And as an officer, you are taught to take responsibility and control over situations even when you don't have control. At least try. And that is why we just acted. We knew that staying around would not be a possible option, and trying to flee was probably the best outcome for us to stay alive from whatever it is that is going on. So that's what we did.
you helped lead a large group of people that survived thanks to your, lead them to safety. How did that happen?
So after 4 miles, or about 6 kilometers, 5 kilometers of us just running from place to place, trying to understand where we're being shot at, we got into a position where we gathered, we were gathering our friends, and then people started to gather around us. And we made a plan that one of our friends had enough battery just to look at a map. And we said, let's continue hiking east. And as we started walking, we just realized that people were following us. And we didn't say a lot to convince them, because how can you convince somebody to walk towards nowhere when you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what's going on, and no internet reception, barely to make a phone call. And that is when we started running from the back of the line to the front to check if anyone is injured, to check if anyone needs help. But of course not everyone made it to back to where we got there, to the key, to Patish.
How long did it take you to get back home?
So we got to Patish at around 11:30 a.m. and we started fleeing by 7:30 a.m. and I got home only at 4 p.m. So it was a long journey, and the road back was really, really hard.
And what happened when you got home? Were your family, your parents, brothers, sisters?
So when I got home, I was greeted by my mom at first, and I think that is one of the worst scenes for me on October 7th, because seeing her cry and melt down like that, it was something that you cannot take it out of your head, because I didn't update her only when I got to Patish. And you don't know if you're going to make it out alive from whatever it is that is going on. We got shot at. We saw people getting shot at, and she was crying, and I just went and hugged her. And till this day, they don't know the full story of what went down there.
But when you got to your home, your mom, you had already spoken to your mom. She knew you were alive. She didn't know yet.
I didn't speak to my mom even when I was at Patish. I spoke to my brother. She couldn't speak to me. She was scared and uncertain of what is going on. So my mom didn't talk to me. And I asked to talk to her when I was at Patish, and she said that she couldn't talk to me.
So you got home, and what happened next? How do you're running from the festival and you're running for your life, but once you get to the safety of your home, and what are the thoughts that cross your mind? You have time to process what you lived for the last hours.
You don't. You don't understand. And when I got home, I sat my family down, told them the story of what I said yesterday. Sorry. And for 2 minutes, went up to my room, showered, and just went to sleep for 3 hours, and then I went to the reserves. That's it. That was the end of October 7th for me. You don't know how to process this kind of an event. You don't know how to think. You don't know why you made it out alive. You don't know why you specifically made it out alive. And you question a lot of things that went down in the field, and could I have done something else? Could I have been killed? Could I have... A lot of things that goes through your mind, but you don't process it.
But it's important to process it sooner or later. How do you heal, not only individually, but collectively? Because this is something, yes, that happened in Israel. You're not there yet.
We are not in the healing process yet. We are far away from it. We are now preparing to what's going to be up north. We are still burying every day another soldier and another soldier. We still have so many hostages inside. We are not in the healing process yet. It will take us time to get there. Not now.
That is why, for me at least, and I know for Michal also, yesterday when there was the song of Am Yisrael Chai,
You couldn't stop crying.
we're not there yet. For me, at least, and I know also for Michal, it's a very complicated. Healing in some kind of a way is also being selfish. It's not thinking about the others who are killed. And the mornings in Israel is the hardest always, because you get the eligible for being published. And you see a name, and you don't even know who he is, but you shed a tear and you start your day always on a bad mood. Always. So there's no time for healing.
But you said that healing is a way to, to move forward for the people that were not able to do it. When we say Am Yisrael Hai, it's the feeling that no matter what happens, we need to. What I'm trying to say is that part of surviving is not only being alive, it's, making the most of it, not for you, for the ones that were not able to make it.
So I think this is why we are here, mostly. To say it out loud to everybody who's willing to listen to us. What happened there to the civilian, to the soldier, to those who were kidnapped. Like, this is the way to make it known throughout everyone who is there, who is listening to us. But it's maybe it's a part of the healing, but the society, the Israeli society, is not healing yet. It will take us time.
Michal, what were you doing October 7? When did you find out that this was going on? And it's unprecedented because, as I asked before, Israelis, we have had missiles, we have had terror attacks, bombs, but the magnitude is something that it's unprecedented. None other war, wars are very sad, but are between armies. But this
was attack on a civilian population, like a terror attack that was that was built for years, that was like a machine going on. It was very early in the morning, and I got a call from one of my ex-commander. While I was in the army, one of my roles was the head of the MIA unit, the missing in action. And I was in this part when we brought Gilad Shalit back home. I've even been with him in the helicopter when he came back to Israel. And unfortunately, I was the one who is in protective edge. We'd been with Goldin family and Shaul family, the two soldiers that were kidnapped on protective edge. And he was one of my commanders then, and he called me and he sent me a picture of a tank who is burning, and you can see footage that the terrorists are taking out of the tank the soldiers, and it's the same footage from Gilad Shalit, the same footage exactly, and he sent it to me on WhatsApp, and he wrote it down, deja vu, but this time it's going to be very hard. And I woke up and I tried to give a call to everybody I know from the MI unit and try to understand what's going on. And I think that at 12 o'clock already I was summoned to the army. I got a call from my commander, said bring a bag for 2 weeks or and a half. Like we knew that it's going to be like for the long run. And we came to the base and we started to process. In the first few days, we only processed name of bases and where were they? Did they kill in the base? Were they killed in the festival? Some of them were actually living in the kibbutz. This is their home, and they're soldiers. So you need to find their bodies inside the kibbutz. So it took us a long time to process the information, and then we started a unique journey of notification the family, trying to find them. There's a process in the army about how you're giving notification to a family. It's done by 3 officers who are coming and knocking on the door, and they're actually reading from a paper 3 lines. Hello, are you the mother, the father of, and then they're saying the name of the soldier. And then they're saying your son has been killed in, and they're saying where it was. And from that point, they're staying in the house until the end of the Shiva, preparing all the military funeral, being with the family, being with the siblings, trying to help in these 7 days as much as possible. The army in Israel has its own cemetery. It's a military cemetery. This is where soldiers can be buried. Every family in Israel can choose where they want to bury their son. You can live in Haifa and bury them in Mount Herzl in Jerusalem. And after these 7 days, the Shiva is ending. A casualty officer is coming to meet the family. The notification officer are leaving the house. There is a very unique ceremonies, I say, of separating from those 3 officers, because in one hand they are the one who gave you the horrible news, but in the other hand they were the one who stayed with you for 7 days. So in those 7 days they connected so much with those officers, and when they need to leave it's very hard for them.
But after October 7, with so many casualties, were you able to stay with the families for the whole week? I mean, it was...
So they called for reserve every person who used to be a casualty officer in the last 25 years. Like we have women and men, by the way, who are now 60, and they call them to reserve, which is the age that we are not doing any reserve. We are finishing usually at 48, something like this, we are finishing the reserve. And the amount of casualty was so high that we had to call everybody that was here. So it was hard. We even had one officer who had, it's called in Hebrew, תסמונת הלב השבור. It means that your heart broke. She had it's not a heart attack, by the way. It's actually that your heart is breaking from sorrow, from sadness. And they took her to hospital and she had all kind of surgery, and she was like in a critical situation for a long time until they saved her. But it's like to show you how hard it is to go from another family to another family. So it was very hard.
2 things that you said yesterday really touched my heart. The first, when you go to give the news to a family, that you hear the laughter of the children and you decide to wait a few minutes because you know that once you give the news, the life of that whole family is gonna change forever.
Yeah. It's quite difficult to find the exact door to knock on. There's a computer system in the army that find not only the address of the soldier, but it can tell you if his parents are divorced, if he was married, and it gives you information if where the parents are they in the country. Remember that it was holiday. A lot of parents were abroad. One of the family that I'm in charge of, the parents were in Paris. We couldn't find them to give them the notification. So we called the army attaché in Paris. We gave him the location of the hotel. So imagine that you are in a holiday in Paris and the attaché with Israeli clothes, uniform, is coming to your hotel and knocking on the door, and you are like opening the door with bathing suit, but you just wanted to go down to the pool. And you are like, I think you're mistaken, this is the wrong door. And he's like, please let me in, my name is, and I came to tell you. So we really need to approach the right door. And sometimes it's Shabbat dinner, and you can hear the prayer, and you can hear the laugh of the kids. And you are extending, as you said, just a few more seconds because you know you will stop everything. and sometimes you need to give the notification very early in the morning. And when the missile attack happened, they didn't let the kids go to school. Everything we stayed at home. But the parents didn't went to work. Those who are working in banks, doctors, the critical institution in Israel did work. So we are knocking on the door, and a 6-year-old child is opening and smiling and saying, soldiers, and doesn't understand who are them. And then, why did they come? And then they asking him, are you alone? Is someone with you? Because you try to see who is with them in the family. And sometimes it's a babysitter who is like 16, maybe not more. And then you realize that you're against time to find his parents. Where are they? Because you have to beat the rumors, and you have to beat the media, and you have to beat WhatsApp. And we had a few times that friends called the parents not because they didn't know that the parents didn't get the notification formal. So they are like calling from the base. They are calling from the kibbutzim, and I just wanted to see how your son. I know it was very he injured severely, and like the mom is calling, answering and saying, what? How did
she doesn't know yet.
Who is speaking to me? Who are you? And it was like, and I can tell you that in one of the families that we had, it's a Druze family in the north. I don't know if you know, but the Druze in Israel are serving with us in the army. They are part of us, and she is very famous teacher in a high school in Bet Jan, which is in the north. And almost everybody in the Druze are serving in the army, and we couldn't find them at home. So they went to the high school and went to ask the principal to call her to his office, and then the minute they enter school, it becomes such a, my friend described it to me, it's like a like everybody like, did you see who came, did your son, where is your son? It was like, it's making me chill right now, because it was like crazy. Like in a second when they entered the school, every mom who is a teacher or a dad who is a teacher and has a kid in the army was, is it for me? And so imagine that you're getting a notification that your son just died in a principal office, and you need to drive home and to find your other kids and to let them know that they need to come back home and to hear the news.
I was in Israel in November, and I spoke to another officer, communication officer, and she said that when they get to a neighborhood and they're looking for a house, that they can see the curtains in the windows, because in wartime, everybody that has, and almost everybody has someone serving in the army, everybody's like, on the lookout to see if they see 3 officers approaching, and when they see them, they're like, I hope it's not to my house, not for my house. And that's really very hard. Yeah. And something else that you mentioned yesterday is that one of the officers, when they open the door, they have to put the foot.
Yeah. The first reaction of every person who is seeing the 3 officers on the other side of the door, it's like, you open or you're not open, and when you're just cracking the door, it's like has to put his foot inside the door, because the first thing the parent will do, or whatever open the door, is to close it very hard. And the minute they will close it, they won't let you in. And we had a family that for hours we stand outside, and the mom was inside the house crying, and she was alone, and she didn't open, and in a few minutes all the neighbors in the building are hearing you. So everybody's coming out of their houses, and it's becoming crowded, and you have nothing to do. So you are trying to ask the neighbors if you know the name of the husband. Maybe some of the neighbor has keys that usually in Israel we leave at the neighbor a key that if you forgot someday. But we are trying to do everything to go inside. And in the first few days we had families that wouldn't stay home, so they wouldn't get the notification. So they didn't come back home. They didn't want to be found, which is amazing if you're thinking about it. It's like you are running away from the notification, and they just started to go from a hospital to a hospital in Israel, deciding with themselves that the way they will know what happened to the son will be with their own strength. They won't get the notification, they will get the information by themselves. And they drove to Barzilai, which is in Ashkelon, and then to Soroka, which is in Beersheba. And then we realized that a lot of the helicopter went to Jerusalem. So they drove to Jerusalem, and for the first 3 days until they understood that the reason that the son is not answering the phone is that he is dead, they were like from a hospital to a hospital, and they didn't came back home. Wow. So it's amazing.
I want to add to what she's saying. I had one of my best friends killed on October 7th in Kibbutz Kfar Aza. And because the fighting inside the kibbutz was so intense, they didn't know if he was alive or dead. So he was considered missing, MIA, for 3 days until Monday. And in Israel, getting a knock on the door, it's a curse. It's a curse, and of course, it's not because of you guys, it's because this is how the system works, and of course, it's part of the process. And I can tell you that today, what she's saying is really, really true also for us, because we look in Telegram and we ask our friends who are serving to know before they come what has happened, to not to be surprised when they knock on your door. Just because of the whole situation, it's really, really hard.
You know, takes a lot of courage. You're very courageous, not because you survived Nova. I mean, you did what you had to do, but to be able to put on your uniform just 3 hours and go back and serve your country, it takes a lot of courage, as it does coming all the way to Panama to share your story. Why do you think it's so important to what you're doing? Because you could have said, well, but you're here, you know.
I believe that we need to live in a world where identity should not be hated just because of what I believe in. And just because my identity is Jewish does not mean I need to be hated on. And it's important to me. Even though I am not the most religious person, I connect with the Jewish people. No matter what language they speak or whatever they want to wear, it doesn't matter, just because I know that they think like me, and I know that they are good people. And I want to embrace that, and I want to make them stronger, because I know how hard it is to see someone who's hurt, but you cannot approach them, which is what you guys are feeling. You guys are seeing this on the news, and you guys are seeing this from the anti-Semitism, and you're hurting just like us. And it's only because we're Jewish. And we need to keep it together. We need to embrace that, and we need to keep being strong no matter where we are. And I truly believe that in some kind of a place, fighting is not only in Gaza. And fighting is not only in Israel, it's also around the world. Being Jewish today it's pretty hard. And I feel obligated to keep the strength going for people who believe like me.
How difficult is it for you to open yourself and share it?
Very hard. Very, very hard. And I can tell you that I feel a lot different than I am when I am abroad than when I'm in Israel. I feel it's 10 times harder being here and to speak about it and to tell about my friends and to talk about Adar. Adar was very close to me. And I know the purpose. And I know that by the end of the day, we are programmed as Israelis to continue living and to continue fighting no matter what.
How does the events of October 7 have they changed your perception of a resolution of the situation with the Palestinians in Israel, or not?
My own personal opinion is that it has changed on the way of how I look on things. How can you have faith in humanity after not only the things I saw, but also the things that girls have gone through and the soldiers have gone through? It's what I think is that October 7th was not only strategically hitting military bases and conquering kibbutzim, it was to humiliate people who think not like us. And that is why it has changed the way I look on certain people. But I'm not losing faith, because I know that it's not the whole group. I don't think it's the majority as well. But as a political solution, yes, my vision has changed.
Thank you. Mia Shehem is a survivor. She has a tattoo that says, "We will dance again." Do you believe we will dance again?
I hope we do. I think it will take us time together, as I said. I think that we need to trust humanity, people again. Like you were speaking now, and I was like imaging. My grandma is a Holocaust survivor. She was 8 in the Holocaust, and her entire family died in a horrible ways. And all of us in my family were in the army. My grandfather came also from the Holocaust, came down from the boat and the same day was becoming an Israeli soldier. My dad was an Israeli officer, me. And I really thought that nothing can hurt us. Like I really thought that Holocaust will never happen to us again. And I think this is what broke October 7. I think the footage that we saw and the horrible thing they did to us make us understand that Holocaust is happening again to us, the Jew. And I think it's cracked something inside of us, inside of all of us, that people can do such a horrible thing to other people. Like, I don't know, I'm sure you saw some of the footage. So it will take time until we dance again, but I'm sure.
Amen. Thank you guys.
Thank you all.